project life cycle part, and you rightly said project will have typically these 4 stages in its life cycle: project initiation, project planning, project execution, and project closure. As the name suggests that all these stages you can easily understand what can be the possible actions or activities in these various stages of project. So let us discuss in detail these things. There are a few more figures I have shown here to make the things more clear. Of course, in this figure you can see there are 5 stages I mentioned. The reason is that maybe the middle stage, has been expanded to 2 steps like execution and control, right? Otherwise, 4 steps you can mention. There is no harm. So let us see what are the details in these stages. The first one is mentioned as project conception and initiation. Right? So as you know, the initiation stage or the initial stage is also kind of at a conceptual level, when the idea is conceived. I told you, maybe in a boardroom or maybe in a brainstorming meeting among all the policymakers. So somewhere this concept is developed and the idea is conceived and people started thinking on this. So that is the first stage, that is the project conception and initiation. So there is something called project charter. Project charter is nothing but a kind of need statement or a kind of document, which is just the seed of that big tree which is going to happen. So project charter is that document or a need statement which all the policymakers will develop at the beginning so that they can deliberate upon that, brainstorm on that. So that is the very initial stage. Now coming to the second stage, which is we call as the project planning stage. It is also a very crucial stage because a lot of detailed planning goes into place, and at this stage also you will come to know, means the policymakers will come to know that whether this project is feasible, viable, or profitable for the organization in the long run. In fact, this is the stage where you have the last chance to drop the idea, right? Because if you are passing through this stage, thereafter the things are on the ground. Means you are started investing on that. There are expenditures, there are fund allocations, and in a later stage, if you drop that idea, or cancel the project or abandon the project, then that is definitely not a good sign. It will have some economic consequences. So better, if it is not a good idea or good project proposal, then better to drop it at the planning stage itself, at the last stage possible. There are some tests or kind of assessments that happens during this first stage and the second stage of initiation and planning. They look into the detail of this project in various domains. Domains in the sense like marketing, financial, commercial, technical, right, and managerial. So based on that, you take a decision that whether this project is a good proposal or not. So they are basically called the feasibility test, right? Project feasibility test. We will discuss that in detail. And there is something called project appraisal, right? So APPRAISL. Appraisal means something assessment, right? So you are saying self-appraisal. In companies for employees, there is something called self-appraisal report, or maybe your senior will give your appraisal report. Appraisal means a kind of assessment. So what exactly you are doing, or your performance, a kind of performance measurement. Similarly, for a project also, there are various appraisal tests or appraisal measurements. As I said, in terms of technical appraisal, it's a commercial appraisal, economic appraisal, market appraisal, right, and managerial appraisal, etc., and the socio-economic appraisal also. So these appraisals again we will discuss maybe in coming classes. But you should know that in this first and second stage, actually what you are doing, you are checking each and every aspect of the project. You are considering various risks that can happen. Your financial status means whether you are in a position to invest in that project or not. Things like that. So that is the planning. Apart from that, you will also plan for the budget, which is very important, and the schedule, right? What is the time you are going to take to complete the project? That is the schedule. Budget means what is the money or the capital that is allocated for the project. So how to distribute that, whether it is sufficient or not. So that is the budgeting. Similarly, you have to understand the scope of the project. We already know what exactly is the scope. So that also you have to prepare in this planning stage. And DPR, or the detailed project report, you can prepare in this project planning stage so that it will be useful. Then there are other things like risk management, Gantt chart, what breakdown structure. So these are all related with the detailed planning. Right? Then comes the execution stage. Right? In the previous discussion, I told you there are 4 stages. So that is execution. Now in this figure, you can see this execution is divided into execution and control, performance and control. So you can understand they are the same stage, but of course you can expand it a bit. So basically now what happens in project, I mean stage 3 and 4 is that whatever plans you have made, now you are bringing that to ground. Right? You have started implementing it. For example, you have some requirement of material, then you will place the orders for the materials from various vendors or suppliers. Right? You will call quotations or you will float tenders. Means you will start the process on a ground field. I mean, physically. It's not in the table now. It has gone beyond the table. It is being executed on ground. Depending on the type of project, of course, all the projects are not on ground literally. Maybe some project is based on some kind of software development. So maybe you will hire the people for that project, or you will have to procure some equipments, or maybe software, or maybe computational systems for that project. So means on the ground you will implement it. Right? So that is the execution. And okay, control feature is that this kind of a feedback loop. Right? The control means a kind of feedback loop. What you are doing here, that you have to check time and again that whether this progress of the project as per your plan or not. Right? So to control it, you need to check periodically that whether this project, whatever your plan according to the schedule, according to the cost, and according to the scope also, that this is my requirement, whether it is going to fulfill it or not, or there is something need to be changed. But see, practically what happens, no matter how nicely you have planned it, there will be little bit of feedback or some action based on feedback. Right? So that makes it a kind of closed loop. Suppose you found that there is something wrong in your design and you cannot overlook it. Right? It is a genuine fault. there is a genuine fault in your design, and you got to know about that at a later stage, right? So whether as an engineer, as a production manager or a project manager, whether you will overlook it just because it has been designed, or you will provide a feedback loop to some earlier stages of its design and try to incorporate the necessary changes in that particular project. Of course, until and unless it is affecting your scope and it does not become a scope creep. So this kind of control, performance and control, it deals with these things. Means it monitors, basically, it monitors the progress of the project and whether it is going to deliver whatever is intended for it, and within the time frame and within the budget to satisfy all the specifications and everything. So if any changes is required, any kind of change, be it in design, be it in budget or in time frame or any specification of the project, suppose some genuine change is required, so it has to be fed back to in that chain that these changes are essential. You cannot overlook it, right? At the same time, control is also the function where you are monitoring and maybe expediting the activities. Expediting the activities means because of any reason, suppose some particular activity is getting delayed, right? There are n number of reasons. Some activity of the project may be getting delayed because the materials are not available, the supplier is not providing, or you are not able to get manpower for that, or there is some license issue from the licensing authority. There are many reasons, many disruptions, as you can call. They're called disruptions. So because of any such risk or uncertainties, suppose some activity is getting delayed, how to get it through and how to expedite it. One cannot just wait and sit for the time to come. Right? This is project. It's not your personal endeavor that you will have your own time. No, there are many stakeholders are involved and money is involved. Right. So in that case, this expedition of the activities to complete the project in time is also a function under the fourth stage, that is performance and control. So checking the performance, that is whether the activities are as per the schedule, as per the scope or not, and controlling it, monitoring it, taking corrective measures or actions is also part of the fourth stage. So when these stages 3 and 4 work in tandem, that helps the project. Right. So whatever changes is required, that will be fed back. Then according to that, it will be executed in step 3. So it is as per the requirement. It will satisfy all the stakeholders. Right. So 3 and 4 therefore is considered as the same step in the previous discussion. We call that execution. But if you will break it down, you will find there is execution as well as control or monitoring. Then finally comes our project closure. Right. So when everything is finished and project is complete, you have to wind up the things, right? But you have to wind up it nicely also. See, the kind of situation I'm talking about is maybe a multi-crore project. You may be thinking, what is the big deal in the closure? Yes, it is a big deal. The reason is that when you are dealing with a multi-crore project, it has to be properly handed over to the client, and all the transactions that are happened, right, to be closed, or the financial transaction accounts or any kind of MOU or agreement or anything Suppose, see, again, I'm talking in the context of multi-crore project. So there are many suppliers, many vendors, many contractors, many consultants who are involved in the project. They themselves are companies, right? Suppose for a big project, you have taken the engineering consultancy service from Nikon, right? So you must have some agreement that what kind of service you will provide and what is the payment for that you have to give and all the terms and conditions. Similarly, suppose in your project you have taken the service from some security services from some other company. In your site, you have taken some third-party service, means you have outsourced, which is popularly we call as outsourced. Suppose you have outsourced your security service to some third-party company, right? So there is some agreement that you will provide this many numbers of security guards, this many arms and ammunition, and you will provide these things. And during this period or this period or month, we will give this much. There must be some terms and conditions. Now, when this project is getting completed, you just cannot go away like this. You have to tell those security companies, your consultants, your suppliers that this is finished now. This project is over now. What is the dues? What are the pendings? What are the things which we have to settle? So project closure itself is also contains very important and vital steps, I would say. You just cannot walk away without doing the things nicely. So that is closure. Apart from that also, the client to whom you are handing over the project, you just simply cannot hand over the key and tell them, okay, now you do your job. It is up to you now. This is the key. So this is a turnkey project. You turn the key and enjoy your music. It's not like that. You have to provide the support for them for some time. You may have to tell them how to use the things, or you may have to give your own manpower for certain time period, maybe a couple of months, till their staffs get acquainted with that. So again, I'm talking about a context of project like a thermal power plant. Suppose L&T has built a thermal power plant, is handing over to some other company like BHEL. There must be a swift transition, right? How to maintain, how to operate. See, there are many technical guidelines and instructions which are required to be given. If you just hand over the key and go away, then you can imagine what will happen in the next day. Maybe there will be a blast. Maybe there will be some accidents. So project closure involves all these things. How nicely you have handed over the things. See, all your hard work for all these years you have done. You should not think that it will go in this way. So very nicely you have to instruct. I mean, give all the kind of instruction, information, know-how about that project to the users, whoever is the user. You have to continuously support that project after the completion also. So take any example. For example, these are IT projects. Right? There are many students from IT and computer science in this club. So again, you think of any IT project. Recently, there is a very infamous news about these Infosys people, those who are dealing with these developing income tax system for Government of India. They have changed this, what is it called, portal or this IT platform for income tax pays completely. A complete new system they have developed. But initially it has a lot of teething problems. I have also faced a lot of problems. So because of these teething problems, the client in this case is the Government of India or the Finance Ministry. They pull up these Infosys people that what you are doing, why it is not working properly. Right. So there is a continuous kind of correction or maybe debugging. So it takes time. Although the project, see, that was a big project, but they just cannot throw it in their table and go away. So that is in the stage of closure. Until and unless the client is satisfied, the users are satisfied, you cannot say that the project is complete and just pay me, I will go. Hello. So these are the things which happens in a project. This is another interesting figure, and it shows the again 4 stages of the project life cycle. But it also contains a very important information, as you can see, a kind of distribution, a kind of graph, which shows the level of efforts, right? Level of efforts, how it varies with time. So it is again typically this figure represents a kind of construction project, right? Real estate construction project. But more or less, although these terms may vary a little bit depending on the type of project, but typically this graph which shows the involvement of your effort or kind of level of your effort, more or less same. The green line. Am I audible to all of you? Okay. So this green line, as you can see, is just telling us that with time, as you progresses in the life cycle of a project, how you have to put various degrees of your effort or involvement. So the first phase, which is the concept or conceive stage, just the idea is there. It is just within your office or boardroom or maybe within your minds, just discussing it. So the efforts are less. You have not allocated any kind of expenditure or budget to that. You are just discussing the things. Right? So the efforts are very less. So in this stage, as you can see, identify need, the points that are mentioned below that. I'm just reading it. So first phase, identify need, establish feasibility. As I said, feasibility testing. Right? Suppose I will give you an idea. So at the first stage itself, you will laugh it out that no, it's not feasible. Right? So why to waste time on that? That is feasibility. Suppose some BTech students came for project and I gave you just prepare some vehicle to fly in the air. That's for example. It's not feasible because they have 2-3 months with me. So they will laugh it out. So it's not possible. It's not feasible. So why to waste time on that? Similarly, for each and every project, you have to check whether it is feasible or not. Feasible in various aspects like technical aspect, financial aspect, commercial aspect, marketing aspect. Because see, the kind of projects you are discussing here are for commercial purpose, not for any charity purpose. So whether it is commercial, means whether there will be some buyers for that. Otherwise, why you will invest in a project for which the output or the product has no takers? So these things you will discuss in the very first stage, initiation stage or concept stage, whether it is feasible or not, right? Whether that idea is feasible or not. So program, process, schematics, preliminary budget schedule, project team, financing, risk, identify alternatives, present proposal. Then finally, the red color is approval to proceed. As I said, in each and every stage, particularly in the first and the second stage, you need some kind of approval, kind of green signal to proceed. So there are some scope that in the first and the second stage, the project can be dropped. cancel it. It is not costing you much because you have not made many investment in that. You are just checking the water. But later on, suppose you have, again, there are many examples where the project are abandoned in during the execution. It is partially completed, but it is abandoned. It also happens, and that is very detrimental for the client or the owner who is spending on that. That should not happen. So if you have properly planned it, then that may not happen. Again, there are some chance, but you have to make sure that it does not face that kind of fate. So you can see the red color, that is approval to proceed. In the first as well as in the second also. Obtain approval to proceed. So after getting the second approval, after the detailed planning stage, then you are going to the field in the actual investment. Right. So you can see here the graph again tells us the most of the effort is put in during the execution stage and part of the closure stage. Right. And then finally all the staffs are withdrawn from the project. That usually happens in an organization. Some staffs are delegated for a project, and once the project is over, they are withdrawn from that project and maybe reallocated to some other project, or maybe taken some time for rest. This way it happens. Right. In project-oriented companies, you will find that employees are allocated to a project. Maybe they have to relocate. They will go to some other place. They will stay there for some years or some months. Then they will complete the project. So they'll come back to their parent organization or the headquarters. So once they come back, then they will wait for the next project. So this way, project-oriented companies, they organize their workforce. They allocate their workforce for various projects, and they withdraw them after the end of the project. This way it works. Okay, so I think today I should stop here. Do you have any questions to ask on this? Yes, any queries in your mind, please go ahead. You should ask questions. I don't know what is holding you back.